Travel with Catholic Communications in August 2022 for the pilgrimage of a lifetime as we experience the famous Oberammergau Passion Play. Join pilgrimage leader Father Gary Daly for the spiritual journey to Germany and the village of Oberammergau, where since 1634 the Passion Play has been presented every 10 years in this quaint alpine village. Our 10-day pilgrimage from August 4th to the 14th will begin in Brussels, Belgium, and continue through Cologne, Heidelberg, Oberammergau, and Munich, Germany. With breakfasts and dinners included, pilgrims will enjoy daily Mass in many of Germany's brilliant cathedrals and churches, a cruise on the Rhine River, a visit to the Schönstatt Pilgrimage Shrine, dedicated to the Blessed Virgin, and to Munich's famous Glockenspiel. Book this incredible pilgrimage now for $5,439. For more information, go to iobserve.org.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
The Independent Task Force on the Response to Sexual Abuse within the Diocese of Springfield releases its final report. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the details coming up.
I'm Nick Morganelli in the town of Lee. I'll take you to a community garden where they're sowing seeds of love for those in need. Wait till you see the bountiful harvest.
And 20 years after 9/11, Rick's Place continues to honor the memory of Wilbraham native Rick Thorpe. These stories are coming your way next on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel, as this weekend we mark the somber 20th anniversary of 9/11. Kathy Harrington will have the story of how one local victim from that fateful day is remembered. But first, the Independent Task Force on the Response to Sexual Abuse within the Diocese of Springfield released its final report this past Wednesday. The task force was convened in early 2020 by then Bishop Mitchell Rosansky to improve how allegations of sexual abuse are investigated and handled. After much fact-finding and discussion, the group came up with a report and a strategic plan. Carolee McGrath has more.
After working together for nearly 2 years, the Independent Task Force on the Response to Sexual Abuse within the Diocese of Springfield released a report and strategic plan to address the goal of improving how the diocese responds to allegations of abuse and its efforts to make sure children are safe. Task Force Co-Chair Irene Woods is the founding executive director of the Children's Advocacy Center of Franklin County in North Quabbin. She's also a licensed independent clinical social worker.
Bishop Byrne has enthusiastically accepted our report and recommendations. We are grateful to him for the trust he has placed in us and for his conviction in making the necessary changes.
In preparation for drafting the final report, the task force received and summarized the input gained from the focus groups of survivors conducted by Stop It Now, an internationally recognized sexual abuse prevention organization. They also analyzed the 492 surveys completed by members of the community, and they collated the information collected from the interviews with diocesan clergy. Co-chair Orlando Azaza is the former program officer at the Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts. He is also a social worker.
Critical to the task force's comprehensive process was to hear the voice of victims or survivors, the clergy, and the community. Notably, many stakeholders had never been invited to share their experience and perspectives with the diocese, while others had been marginalized and disenfranchised for decades. Thus, inviting stakeholders to share their voice and give input into the strategic plan in a safe, structured, and valid way was a top priority for us.
And a top priority for Bishop William Byrne, who thanked the task force for their work and said this is a new day for the diocese.
It is critically important that this report and accompanying strategic plan was not a top-down initiative, but rather it was a grassroots effort, one that would not have been possible without the invaluable input the task force received from the various stakeholder groups. I want to especially thank, with my personal thanks, to the courageous clergy abuse survivor community for the substantively critical input.
Since before he was installed, Bishop Byrne has recognized the extraordinary pain and courage of survivors and all those affected by the clergy sexual abuse scandal.
It is my sincere hope that this will offer us a blueprint to once and for all set a course for real change in how we handle future allegations. So it is with a most grateful heart that I accept this report and strategic plan.
There are 6 strategic initiatives in the 20-page report. The diocese will acknowledge the trauma of sexual abuse on members of the community and ensure the allocation of resources needed to promote healing of survivors and the faith community. The diocese will respond to all allegations of sexual abuse in the church community in a timely, compassionate way. The diocese will ensure a transparent system of protocols and procedures that guarantee respect and due process for all. The diocese will ensure that the local church leadership is held responsible and accountable for failing to protect children and other vulnerable persons. In addition, they will hold those who have been credibly accused of sexual abuse responsible and accountable. And the diocese will establish programs designed to prevent sexual abuse of anyone in the faith community. Each of the 6 initiatives in the strategic plan have specific recommendations. For example, under number 6, which deals with prevention, the task force is recommending the relaunching of the Virtues training program or protecting God's children. Under number 3, which deals with a transparent system of protocols and procedures, the task force is calling for the appointment of an advisory board to ensure that this plan is fully implemented. The task force will stay on until the new oversight committee has been convened. A few specific recommendations made in their report have already been implemented. The joint memorandum of understanding between the diocese and the 3 district attorneys' offices in Western Massachusetts has been completed. The task force recommendation to update the mandated reporter policy was implemented in May. And the Diocesan Review Board, which hears cases of sexual abuse and makes a recommendation to the bishop about the credibility of a claim, has also been reconfigured with new bylaws written by the task force. The task force was in place before the release of the Judge Vilas report, which found sexual abuse allegations against deceased Bishop Christopher Weldon to be credible.
One central theme in his report was the relative absence of checks and balances in the process of investigation of allegations, and the report itself and the creation of the advisory board make sure that checks and balances are established.
And while the bishop says the report is just the beginning of rebuilding trust, he says he's hoping to reach out to those who have left the church.
I ask them to step back so that they can be a living part of a healing church. And that's my invitation to them. We seek to be the healing hands of Christ in the world, and I need them to help me do that.
The task force is recommending that the strategic plan be fully implemented by 2024. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
I'm Dean Dumas with your Reel to Reel news briefs. The monthly First Friday prayer breakfast and lecture series resumed at St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield on September 3rd for the first time since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. David Martin has the story.
"30 people attended this First Friday prayer breakfast, which has been taking place for 39 years, interrupted only due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
I have estimated last night that we have had 380 speakers, and I think I've poured over 15,000 cups of coffee.
The breakfast offers a chance for folks to gather in prayer and fellowship on the first Friday of each month.
We have good, interesting topics. They're usually religious-based, so we try to keep that tone. We even had other denominations come in and address our group. We've had a lot of Protestant ones, Orthodox priests, and so on.
Breakfast was later provided, followed by the guest speaker, Dr. Harry Dumais, president of the College of Our Lady of the Elms in Chicopee. Dr. Dumais spoke to Reel about the crisis in his home country of Haiti, including the murder of President Jovenel Moïse on July 7th and the 7.2 magnitude earthquake on August 14th.
People are, generally in the country trying to get their bearing about the murder of their leader. but also particularly in the southern part of Haiti, where there are families right now that are still out of their homes, living under tents or in streets and trying to, get their lives back in order. So really, really tragic and difficult situations.
He held a question and answer session with the audience afterwards. In Springfield, I'm David Martin.
Sister of Providence Mary Caritas Geary, a 1945 graduate of the Mercy Hospital School of Nursing, and her fellow alumni have long been asking for a flower garden in tribute to nurses. Well, they finally got their wish. In late spring, the Nurses Garden was consecrated at the front entrance of Mercy Medical Center in Springfield. Staff members of the Mercy Medical Center gathered to dedicate the garden honoring the past and present service of nurses. Deborah Bitzoli, the president of Mercy Medical Center, has a long history of family working in the healthcare field, so designing the garden was very personal to her. She worked with a landscaper to select an area in the hospital campus that is very visible to passersby.
And I think that it's going to continue to develop and thrive, and the colors again are going to signify life and how life can bloom when you have someone that cares deeply about you, and that's what nurses do. They care deeply about their patients.
Sister of Providence Mary Caritas Geary, a Mercy Medical Center board member, was pleased to finally have a garden in appreciation of the thousands of graduates of the Mercy Nursing School who share a special bond. Sister Caritas offered daily prayer for all nurses, especially because of the pandemic this past year.
They put in so much of their lives every single day when they come to work. They never know what's going to happen. And it's not easy because they worry about their children and their families, their parents, and yet they come to work and they do their duty. And I'm just so proud to be a nurse.
Sister Caritas, a former Mercy Hospital president, was surprised with a bouquet of flowers for being the oldest graduate of Mercy Medical Center. Remarks were given from members of the Mercy Medical leadership team.
May this garden bring tranquility to all who pass by.
A blessing was later offered by Father Donatus Irenuma, chaplain at Mercy Hospital. A bronze statue of a nurse wearing a Sister of Providence cap will eventually be added to complete the garden. In other news, the College of Our Lady of the Elms has announced the retirement of Kathleen B. Scoble, Dean of the college's School of Nursing. During her 18-year tenure, Scoble had an extraordinary impact on the nursing program. When she joined Elms College, the Division of Nursing consisted of one baccalaureate program with 100 students, which now has nearly 500 nursing students enrolled in the 12 programs that currently comprise the School of Nursing. Scoble has been named the Dean Emerita of the School of Nursing, becoming the first Elms College Dean to receive this distinguished title. The college has also created the Kathleen B. Scoble Leadership in Nursing Award that will be presented each year. We wish Dean Scoble a very happy retirement. And remember, you can always stay informed on all the latest news in the Catholic Church locally and beyond by logging on to iobserve.org. There you can read articles written by our Catholic communication staff, as well as watch on-demand episodes of Reel to Reel. We also have posted a photo gallery of the last weekend's Festa celebration in Ludlow. That's all found on iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were Reel to Reel news briefs.
Thanks, Dan. And still to come on Reel to Reel, the fall harvest is upon us. Nick Morganelli takes us to a parish community garden in Lee that's helping to feed those in need. And as we mark 2 decades since the tragic events of 9/11, Kathy Harrington will report on how the legacy of one local victim is still going strong. These stories are still ahead on Reel to Reel.
Like Catholic TV on Facebook. Once you're there, you can join in on discussions, make friends with other Catholic TV fans, watch behind-the-scenes videos from the studio,
just finished this today,
and stay up to date with the Catholic world. All this at facebook.com/CatholicTV.
Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
It's been 20 years since the 9/11 attacks that brought down planes in Pennsylvania, into the Pentagon, and into the Twin Towers. On this 20th anniversary, I invite you for a special Mass on 9/12, Sunday the 12th, at 10 a.m. here at St. Michael's Cathedral, to commemorate that sad event, to pray for peace, but to also honor first responders. Those women and men, they were the first to be on scene, and we commemorate each and every time that police and our fire and our EMTs rush to save us in our distress. So join us for that most important day, 9/12 at 10 a.m. at St. Michael's Cathedral.
Join Bishop William Byrne Sunday evening at 9 p.m. as he appears as a guest on the EWTN show Life on the Rock. This will be the first of a 2-part interview, the second part airing September 19th. Check your cable or satellite provider for EWTN's channel listing.
Organic gardening has become more common in recent years as people look for healthy and economical ways of feeding their families. St. Mary Mother of the Church Parish in Lee has jumped on board, helping to feed those in need while bringing the community together. Nick Morganelli shows us their green thumbs.
A church in Lee has a new garden. A community garden.
We thought we had the right people in place, and so once that happened, we started to just gather the resources. People have been super generous.
Father Brian McGrath loves gardening, has chickens at the parish, and he noticed his neighbor had a green thumb.
He didn't ask. He just, he was just telling me how they were looking for somebody, and he knows I love working outside and working in the garden.
Not Catholic, but just a lover of the earth and a very spiritual person. And that's part of the idea of the community garden. We're reaching out across denominations and faith backgrounds, and Catherine stepped up, and so she's been the spearhead between the volunteers and the donators and different things that have come around. So she's been indispensable.
Finally, I was like, you know what, we need to get this thing off the ground. So I said, all right, I'll take it on. I'll make it happen.
Through donations, volunteers created a raised bed garden using bales of hay, but many contributed to make this a realization.
The committee and all the people who work here are so appreciative of the local businesses who have helped us to fund all the aspects of this. We couldn't have done it without them.
The hay bales were nourished with organic fertilizer and soil, and volunteers stepped up to prep the space and plant the seeds.
Some of these seeds are current, some of them are out of date. They're all worth planting.
It's so great. Thank you, Ron.
Enjoy.
Okay.
The labor of love that started in the spring now brings a joyful harvest to many in the community.
I think it's very wonderful to help the community, and with this garden, everyone's inspired to help out.
Along with their teachers, students from the college internship program that serves young adults with learning differences or autism helped with the harvesting.
It's very valuable. It offers food, it offers an experience, and it's good to just walk around and look at what's here.
It's really nice because they get to come to a quiet place. They get to practice a lot of those social skills, even simple things like asking follow-up questions or introducing themselves. So it's a really great opportunity because we get to meet so many different kinds of people who come to volunteer, who come to receive some of the benefits of the harvest.
And also express their creativity.
Yeah, Mrs. Zucchini? Got live potatoes.
No, I don't have it.
They also have cooking instruction and life skills appointments where they can now start to learn how to cook and prepare the foods that they're taking from the garden so they can use that in healthy meals or snacks.
One student has plans for one of my favorite herbs.
The basil, I'm going to see if I can get some pizza dough so I can make a margarita pizza, because that's the best thing for basil and it's just delicious.
When Brenda heard this, she shared my thought exactly.
I'm hoping to drop by at the exact time it comes out of the oven.
On this day, the students delivered fresh nutrition to the senior center.
Wow, you really kind of outdid yourself today. Wow.
It is a significant amount of produce.
Yes. And believe me, people are very thankful for it.
Happy to be of assistance.
Well, that's very nice. So feel free.
Norma Babinski was shopping to make dinner for her husband Stanley, who recently had his 100th birthday.
Norm, what are you going to make?
Oh, try to make soup, I suppose.
Soup? Well, see, that's another good thing to make with
the only
these.
thing you know?
Yeah.
Father McGrath says the new garden fulfilled 3 goals this year.
Witness value, make a dent on food insecurity, and then give people lessons and experience in gardening.
Harvesting food and joy in Lee for Real to Real, I'm Nick Morganelli.
Here's a look at some events in our area. The Dominican Nuns of West Springfield invite all to take part in their annual Rosary Sunday devotions at 1 p.m. on Sunday, October 3rd. This will include the blessing and distribution of roses, recitation of the Rosary, and benediction of the Blessed Sacrament. The monastery is located at 1430 Riverdale Street in West Springfield. Holy Cross Parish in Springfield is holding a Fruit and Bread of Life Farmers Market every Sunday from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the church on 219 Plumtree Road. Fresh produce, homemade baked goods, and handmade crafts will be featured. The market will continue until October 24th. This month's Healing Mass at Mary's House of Prayer in Chicopee will take place on September 26th, beginning with Rosary at 1 p.m. Praise and worship will be at 1:30, and the Mass begins at 2. Prayovers follow the Mass along with a brief social. Mary's House of Prayer is located in the former St. George Church at 202 East Main Street in Chicopee. They hold a monthly healing Mass on the 4th Sunday of each month. Finally, today, as we remember those who died on September 11th, 2001, here in the Diocese of Springfield, we celebrate the life of Wilbraham native Rick Thorpe. It's in his memory that Rick's Place was founded in 2007 to support grieving children and teens. Therese Ross recently took over as executive director of the agency. Kathy Harrington introduces us now to her and reports on how their reach has grown in the last 14 years.
My name's Sydney, and I remember my mom being very strong even when she was sick.
And I remember me, Ian, and my dad always watch Star Wars movies.
We have families who have all kinds of losses who come here.
Meet Therese Ross, the new executive director of Rick's Place, a leader with a deep understanding for grieving children and their families.
Well, it actually comes from personal experience. So my husband died of cancer, and I have 3 children.
Previously, she worked in early childhood and elementary school education, and as a coach for middle school and high school student athletes. So this new role seems a natural fit.
I recognize that my background in education and my personal experience of loss really equipped me for being able to be present for families and work with students in a way that allows a connection.
Ross says every loss is unique in circumstance and experienced differently for children and adults. Grief may come in waves, small ripples, or tsunamis for adults. But for children,
We talk about it as if the kids are jumping in and out of puddles of grief. So it could be a great big puddle that they're in and they're trying to make it through that one moment, and then they hop back out of it and you think, well, nothing's wrong. You know, they don't even acknowledge the loss, but then they jump back into another puddle of grief.
Founded in 2007 in memory of Wilbraham native Rick Thorpe, this is an agency born from great loss on September 11th.
When he died in Tower 2, Rick left behind an 18-month-old baby. And Rick's parents really wanted to be sure that any family who had losses would be able to get support that they knew was so essential for successful development.
From the devastating death of a young father came the creation of Rick's Place, where grieving children and their families find support, can share memories, share their sadness, and share laughter. It's a non-judgmental environment where kids find they're with others who feel the same way.
There's sort of a societal discomfort in talking about death, and kids read that right away. They recognize who is willing to talk about a loss and who's not.
Meeting in groups, sorted by age, they do art projects, and the sharing of experiences seems to happen naturally.
We talk a lot about their individual experiences, which is really great for the kids in the group because sometimes other kids will say, yeah, that's happened to me, or that's what I've been thinking. And there's real community in that.
Ross says teenagers want to be like their friends, but when they've experienced a loss, they may feel isolated.
So when they come to a Rick's Place grief group, they aren't. There are other kids who've had similar losses.
In addition to 8-week support groups for the parents and guardians, meeting as the children and teens gather at Rick's Place, the agency goes into schools, offering peer support groups. They also provide teachers with education about children who have experienced loss. Ross says 93% of teachers report having no training about grieving children.
We talk with teachers about ways they can hold conversations with kids. Students want the loss acknowledged. They don't want to be focused on, but they want someone to make a connection with them.
The in-school training is especially important in this time of COVID, where so many families have experienced death.
And for every one of those COVID deaths, 9 people are impacted. And so how can we do more in the broader community? Expanding to another location could meet some of that.
Ross and the executive board may look west of the Connecticut River to reach the needs of the population there. Rick's Place services are free of charge, thanks in part to the annual Catholic Appeal, community support, and fundraisers. I'm Kathy Harrington for Reel to Reel.
Such a beautiful and helpful program for children and their families, and a lasting tribute to Rick Thorpe. Our thoughts and prayers are with all who perished that day, as well as for the families and friends they left behind. Tomorrow morning on the Chalice of Salvation, Bishop William Byrne will celebrate a special Blue Mass marking this somber 20th anniversary, as well as praying for all first responders. Viewers on WWLP 22 News can catch that at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And it will also be available on our YouTube channel via a link at iobserve.org, where you can also follow the latest news of the Catholic Church both here in Western Massachusetts and around the world. That's our news and information site, iobserve.org. And I will see you right back here next week at this same time for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. I'll see you then.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.